Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, and interviews. It's Wednesday, December 7th. Hope you're well. Going to get started with the live stream here momentarily. We're going to discuss MJ stocks and whether or not they're soon going to offer a dividend. I know that probably turns a lot of heads, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but it does have some context and a backstory with an interview with Boris Jordan, who's the founder of Curaleaf. So we're going to get into all that and more. We're going to do some technical analysis on that as well. And we're also going to just do a quick update on the market. It's been volatile in the MJ space over the last few days. And we're going to discuss some of the news that's developed with safe banking. And we'll be doing a live stream, obviously. So we'll be interacting with all of you at the end, but just hang tight for another 30 seconds or so. We'll give it another half a minute for people to join us, and then we'll get started. If you could smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, and you'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. Share the video with anybody that might find value or that wants to hop on the stream. See, we have quite a few people joining us, so welcome to the live stream. Gonna get started here in about 15 seconds, and let us know where you're tuning in from. You guys ready to get this kicked off? Let's go. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back to The Pursuit of Wealth. Excited for the live stream today. I see we have quite a few people joining us, so welcome. Hello. See, we have some people commenting. Thanks for your comments. And like I said, we'll jump into the comments here momentarily at the end of the stream. So just as a quick recap, going to go through the interview with Boris Jordan. He talks about whether or not MJ stocks will offer a dividend, talks about how important 280E is and what it's been doing to their company. With regards to, there's a bunch of stuff in that interview. There was, stuff about their CapEx, their capital expenditures, how that's going to come down by about 50%. It's a pretty long interview, so I'm not going to go into that. But again, if you could smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. And let's go. First and foremost, we had some news that broke over the last few days that obviously sent prices flying back down, elevator flying back, flew up, no support, and then elevator moved back down, right? And that's what we usually see when we don't establish any support on the daily time frame. And we had about 40% worth of gains on some of our names with no daily support, and we had this news that just knocked us right back down. But the charts aren't looking too bad at the moment. But essentially, congressional lawmakers declined to put MJ reform in defense bill as new details surface on Safe Plus package. This was from about 20 hours ago. That's obviously what sent the market correcting, but also the broader market, the S&P 500 started weekly consolidation as well, while some MJ names haven't started weekly consolidation, meaning they haven't lost the low of the previous weekly candle low. So that, that shows some relative strength compared to the broader market. And then also MJ banking sponsor lays out plan to advance reform after exclusion from defense bill, sharply rebuking Senate blockade. So we've got some ping pong going around here at the moment. Also, Mitch McConnell was super, up in arms about this being added to NDAA. And then he started to brag about MJ banking defeat in defense bill, signaling he'll fight to stop in an omnibus spending too. So that just means like everything, including the kitchen sink, is essentially is the type of bill that the omnibus would be, right? So it's a bunch of things collectively together. But there's some skepticism that can actually pass. So there's a few different ways right now that this could pass. Some sort of reform, and he talks about the reform in here as well. Boris Jordan, the founder and executive chairman of Curaleaf. He does a real great job breaking it down. He even says some of the same things that I've been saying, that I think it's going to be safe banking, then rescheduling, and then full-blown legalization at the federal level, right? And he also goes over a few other things in this interview. Like I mentioned, he talks about how their CapEx, their capital expenditures, they're going to be substantially lower next year. And that just means like things like land and equipment. So those things that not OPEX, right? So OPEX is operational expenses, your day-to-day things like, a lease on a building or, legal fees, things like that, day-to-day expenses. Whereas the CapEx is like a yearly expense usually, right? So, or a longer term, and it includes things like land and things like that, right? So, or buildings or equipment. So he talks about how that's going to drop about 50%, but I encourage you to go check this interview out. It's too long for me to play it all, but I'll play the important part that I want to show you here. This is very informative, very educational, and he echoes a lot of the same things that I've been saying. It's 27 minutes long, so I will put the link in the description of this video, and you'll be able to refer to it there on your own time if you haven't seen this. But shout out to Rita in the POW Group private community for sharing this. I didn't see this until today. I did see an article about it, but I've been pretty busy over the last couple of weeks, but finally got some time ahead of me into the holidays, surprisingly enough. But we'll jump into the interview here. And like I said, there's a few different things that could happen, right? We could see Biden could basically tell HHS to review the scheduling. We already know that he signed the research bill, so the writing's sort of on the wall. Right now, we could see a standalone package with Safe Plus, which is very highly unlikely, and a lot of people are skeptical about that happening. We could see the omnibus bill as well, right? So we'll see whether or not it gets included and gets passed through Congress. I doubt that it's going to happen because there's only a couple of weeks left. But then we have a new Congress starting in January. So we'll see what that brings. But we could also see Biden tell HHS to review the scheduling. And based on this research bill dropping, right, that increases the odds that we could potentially see that. And then that could lead to a rescheduling. So right now it's on Schedule 1 right there with heroin. So if they, deschedule it, I think it's 2 levels, something 3 or below, then that would solve all the problems that we're looking to do with the safe banking anyway, right? That would allow access to traditional banking, that would allow uplisting, and it would also get rid of 280E, which he talks about in this interview has been really taking a hit, and they might even be able to offer a dividend in the future because of this fact that it's been eating at their profits, right? Because they spent, I think he says, $340 million, so over $250,000 on 280E, right? Which that could be profits going back into the company, that could be profits going back to the shareholders and the stakeholders as a form of dividend. So, and a lot of people are asking me too in my, just interactions with people is, will cannabis stocks ever offer a dividend? And my answer is usually, well, let's, crawl before we walk, so to speak, right? Because right now, a lot of the companies aren't even profitable. There are some, most of them are the US companies that have posted really good financials and profitability numbers. But at the end of the day, they're still getting heavily weighed on by 280E. The industry is still federally illegal and a Schedule 1 drug in the US. So there's a lot of things hindering it, but there's a lot of potential here as well into the future. And dividends very well could be very popular among MJ stocks. And you'll soon see that here. So we have a few different things that could happen into the next few months with regards to legalization. I think we're going to get safe banking somehow. Then if not, potential rescheduling. But he even agrees with me in this video that it's probably going to be, it's probably not going to be next year, and certainly not going to be full-blown federal legalization for a couple of years. But we'll get into this video. I'm just going to mute my mic and make this full screen.
Let me ask you this. If you had to outline 3 bold predictions for this industry for 2023, what would they be?
Well, they would be different depending on whether we get safe or not.
Okay, so maybe that's a bold prediction. Do you think we get safe? You said yes. If we do get, then what would be 2 and 3 bold predictions based off of that?
Well, if we get safe, you're going to get a lot of activity in the capital markets, relistings, uplistings, all this kind of stuff. You're going to get a lot of new capital. My concern is that the capital flow into the right companies, not into companies, because 280, safe banking doesn't resolve 280E. The biggest problem in the industry is 280E.
Yep.
If you were to ask me what I would like to get first is 280E, then safe banking. But it's not going to happen that way. 280E is only going to get removed when they reschedule cannabis, and we think that'll happen before the next presidential election, but we're not going to get it next year for sure.
Okay.
So we have to live with what we've got. And the problem with safe banking is that these companies, I put the numbers out. You guys remember, since 21, we have spent $340 million paying cash dollars for 280E. We have spent Curaleaf, $40 million. That money would have been at the bottom line. Can you imagine what the profitability of Curaleaf would be? If we would, we'd be cash flow positive. We would be net income positive, and probably paying a dividend if we were to have that kind of cash flow.
Think about that.
Right?
Now, is that the future? Is that the future for us, where you could foresee like 2 or 3 years out? I know we're getting long cycle here, but that this company can actually create, pay out a dividend like a Coca-Cola in the future?
Cannabis companies are going to be big dividend payers eventually.
Wow. Okay.
Because once we build the infrastructure, the capex is maintenance capex and efficiency capex, right? And if it's not M&A, what are you going to be doing with the capital? You're going to be paying it out. And these are high cash flow generative businesses. So there's no question in my mind we would have been paying dividends. I think probably not this year, but if we didn't have 280E, I guarantee next year would be our first year we'd pay a dividend if we didn't have 280E, for sure. But I don't want to tell. That is out of the question while we have 280E, because the government's basically taking all the money we make for themselves.
So if 280E is pushed to the side, you're going to see dividends happening in this industry, is what you think?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Cannabis is going to be a dividend-paying business. There's no question in my mind.
Wow.
Now, Boris, I want to ask you this as well. Of course, John Fetterman, he won the senator race in Pennsylvania against.
Okay, going to end it there, but that was pretty exciting. I don't think anybody saw that coming, myself included. This is from 3 weeks ago. Showed up to the Dales Report and this interview with, like I said, Boris Jordan, the founder and chairman, executive chairman of Curaleaf. Curaleaf, full disclosure, I own the stock as well in my long-term portfolio. Very bullish on the stock. We know that they're going to be big into Germany as well. And yeah, there's a lot of potential here, and I agree with what he's been saying. I mean, imagine $340 million he would have, the company would have been able to retain, right? And then, either reinvest that into the business or give it back as a form of, loyalty and reward and dividend to their shareholders, right? So obviously, safe banking isn't going to solve 280E, like he said. So that's a very good point. And he does go on to say, a few different things. I wanted to keep on going with this video, but in effort of time, I want to keep it as short as possible, trying to keep these live streams a little short. But essentially, he goes on to say that he thinks that safe banking would pass first, and then we would have rescheduling. And remember, this was from about 3 weeks ago as well, when we had a lot more optimism with regards to safe banking. So now it's looking like that might be, maybe 50-50. I thought it was closer to 80 to 90% chance we get safe banking, either through the wider bill or through a standalone package. But now it's looking like that might be 50-50, right? Or maybe even 60-40 the other way. So now we could potentially, though, with the research bill and the rescheduling, we could see it rescheduled first, which if it gets rescheduled, no one would see that coming, right? Everybody saw safe banking coming. So maybe that's sort of the green swan we're waiting for, right? Kind of a different spin on a black swan, but essentially a green swan would be something that would, and no pun intended, it would send the market just exploding, right? And if we got it rescheduled, that's something that could solve all problems at once, right? If it gets scheduled, as 3 or schedule 5, or maybe not even on the schedule list at all. I mean, what are the odds of that happening? I wouldn't say that's very probable, at least not in the next year, but it could happen. We have to be ready for a surprise, but at the end of the day, we just don't know. We just need to plan for all scenarios, right? So at the end of the day, we can use this time, if it doesn't get passed right away, to accumulate and gear up for the biggest catalyst of our lifetime, which is going to be U.S. legalization. And just listen to the excitement in his voice. This guy's worth like $1.6 billion, and he created the company Curaleaf. And think about how exciting that would be. He said they'd already be paying a dividend already if there wasn't scheduled 280E. So if we get rescheduled, that would solve uplisting, that would solve safe banking, and that would also solve 280E. So things are getting interesting. And like I said, the next few years are going to be life-changing. Really, generational wealth could be created, and then long-term lasting generational wealth as well, right? Not just the immediate return based on 10x to 100x gains on some of these names based on how beaten down they are. Could easily see 1,000% returns on some of these names from current price levels. But imagine if we were getting a dividend, and they even mentioned Coca-Cola, right? How valuable, it's a commodity, it's a plant. So at the end of the day, I'm excited for the future. We'll take a quick look at the quick peek here and look at the chart here for Curaleaf. Just taking a look at the CSE chart here at the moment. So we did lose the daily uptrend. We had this nice higher low, higher high pattern. We almost risked a downtrend here with a lower high and lower low, but we held support, held EMA 26, then we broke to a higher high. Then we came down and we lost the higher low pattern. So we're no longer in a daily uptrend, but we're also not in a daily downtrend either. To be in a daily downtrend, we would need a lower high and a lower low, which we have yet to see. But essentially, we lost the daily uptrend. So we are weak. And when you lose the daily uptrend, that means to zoom out. Or if you lose the hourly uptrend, that means to zoom out to the daily. If you lose the daily uptrend, that means zoom out to the weekly time frame and then look for consolidation on that higher level time frame. What does consolidation mean again? As a reminder, it just means we're losing the low of the previous weekly candle price, the lowest price that week. So when we lost 850, we started weekly consolidation. And at the moment, it's just healthy. It looks similar to SPY. SPY hadn't consolidated on the weekly time frame in over a month. And then same with Curaleaf. So we're just basically following the broader market right now. But because we've been more volatile, the S&P also didn't go up 60% in a month and a half, right? So when we go up 60%, you need to expect a pretty big pullback. And right now we're about 27% in change. And we're still just looking for a weekly higher low and a weekly uptrend with the low, high, higher low, and higher high. Now we have another higher low forming. We'll be confident that the weekly higher low is set once we're back in a daily uptrend. So we need to confirm a daily uptrend to be confident that our weekly lows are in and that we're likely going to start to bounce from here. And in order to see a daily uptrend, we would need to see the high, the higher low, and higher high, right? So again, I know this is kind of, different language to some people, but the more you start learning these charts, I've got several years under my belt with regards to technical analysis. I don't consider myself an expert by any means, but I know enough to be dangerous. And, we just got to kind of look at what the charts are saying. And realistically, there's not really any damage from a weekly perspective. And on the monthly time frame, we're bouncing hard on the monthly, but we broke the monthly downtrend with a break of the lower high pattern, but we haven't confirmed a monthly uptrend yet. This move's all coming off the low from low to high. So now what we're going to be looking for on monthly consolidation is a higher low and higher high. But what bulls want to see is as a big of a bounce as possible, hold the low of the previous monthly candle for the next even month or so, and then get as big of a move to the upside as possible to allow for that higher low to form, right? But right now, we do have quite a bit of room right now. We have an adequate amount of room and ample space to create one. We could still drop from current levels about 24%, right? So don't be too surprised if we do see more downside. And the weekly time frame isn't looking so hot right now. We have the 10-week moving average at 821, and we have almost a bear cross here on the stochastic. The MACD getting close to a bear cross, but not as close as the stochastic. But we are below the 10-week moving average there at 821. We're currently at 810. Closing price today. So what I want to see is a weekly candle close over 821 to remain bullish, but not looking great in terms of that weekly time frame. We did get the bear cross of the weekly moving averages out of the way though, and we're trying to hold that 50 weekly moving average there at 823. So again, see a weekly candle close over 823, 821, the 10-week moving average. So I'll say 823 to remain bullish, but there is a major bullish indicator flashing and pattern on the chart. You can see here we just had a golden cross a few days ago. And what a golden cross is when you have these moving averages, it could be the weekly, it could be the hourly, it could be the daily. When these moving averages, it just takes the average over the last, however many days. So 50 days, 50-day moving average would be the last 50 days, and then it divides, adds it up individually and then divides it by 50. When the shorter term moving averages are below longer term moving averages, it's called a bull cross. And then when the short term is above the longer term and comes down and crosses, that's called a bear cross. On the daily chart, on the daily time frame, when each candle represents a day and the 50-day moving average is below the 200 and they cross, that's called a golden cross. And look what we did. We lost the daily uptrend, but we're back testing that 200-day moving average. And look how far above it we got on that daily time frame. This is looking really, really strong, but we're holding that daily 200-day moving average, and that's sitting at $7.77. So if we can hold that into the end of the week here, and then, like I said, get a close over around $8.23, it's looking extremely healthy at the moment. And we're still in a weekly uptrend, and we want to see that monthly uptrend to be confident that the bear market is in and the bottom is in, and we could potentially be heading to new all-time highs. But just for comparison's sake, take a look at Tilray. Tilray got above its 200, but not that far above it. We could see an we could see a golden cross here as well. And if we take a look at CGC, it got above it slightly, but yet see that golden cross. The more names that start to confirm golden crosses, the better. But even MSOS has yet to see a golden cross. And then it got above its 200-day moving average just barely. But look at how much upside and continuation we got from Curaleaf, right? So this is definitely a leading indicator and something that we can look out for potential higher prices here in the not too distant future. But that is a major bullish indicator that has been flashing. If we take a look from a couple years ago, the highs of February 2021, we were holding it. And here's where the 50-day, the shorter term moving average was above the longer term moving averages. And then we came down, we confirmed it as resistance, not a golden cross because it's the other way around. Now you call it a death cross in the daily time frame. So a bear cross, death cross because it's the daily time frame, and the 50 and the 200-day moving average. In this direction, it's a bull cross, and since it's the daily time frame, that would be a golden cross because it's the 50 and the 200, right? So in this instance, we had a death cross, kiss of death, couldn't get above it. Then the cross occurred here in about August, and then from there, the price went from about $15 all the way down to about low sixes, right? So that was the clear sell signal, and now we're getting a huge major buy signal on Curaleaf. So it's looking okay. I would say, bears and bulls right now are pretty much equal. They're putting on a good fight. But I would say bears still have the upper hand because we haven't confirmed a monthly uptrend yet. We did break the monthly downtrend, so the trend is now flat. It's neutral, but now we need that higher low and higher high, right? So things are looking promising. I'm still optimistic, definitely, with all the news that broke today and over the last couple of days. Definitely putting a halt to some of the excitement, but there's still quite a few options that we could see over the next couple of months, either from a safe banking perspective or from a rescheduling perspective. But it's likely going to be multiple years before we see full-blown federal legalization. He mentioned in this video as well that Germany is set to come online. He said that was 3 weeks ago, he said 12 to 14 months. So I'm pretty sure he said 12 to 14 months. So either end of 2023, beginning of 2024, Germany's going to come online. That's like 80 million people. And he says also in the video that they're going to be, because of treaties and different restrictions and the international things like that, laws and regulations, they're going to have to outsource because they just don't have the cultivation, right? Or the manufacturing to sustain that many people. So they're going to be looking to Canada and all these other countries that have it federally legal, right? And then they can even they can order it as medical and then go through this process where they make it rec. There's some ways to get around it, but some loopholes, but we don't want loopholes. We want full-blown, legalization, and we want adoption and innovation, right? We want the industry to flourish, not, create loopholes that it has to jump and do somersaults through, right? We want to just be able to hit the track running and go full stride, right? Just sprint. So it's definitely volatile times, and it's a roller coaster in MJ. And, I don't think anybody expected anything less, right? When we got into this space, it's the second most riskiest asset class in the planet, in my opinion, next to crypto. And it's going to take multiple years before we see this really take off in a big way. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. This isn't get rich quick. But I think, like Boris Jordan said, over the next few years, we're going to see some of these companies just dividend machines, and they're going to have so much money they're going to be floating in it, they're not going to know what to do with it, right? Either, from laws and regulations and these like 280E changing, being able to retain more of that, instead of going to taxes, so there's lots of growth still yet to come, not even just from a U.S. perspective, from a global perspective. In Canada, we still have a 30-gram limit. There's still drinks limitations. There's still, no drinks in bars, and there's still no lounges. There's still no restaurants that sell it or events. So there's so much growth. There's still no advertising. Imagine a Super Bowl ad or something like that with your favorite MJ company on it. There's just so much growth. It's not even funny, but we're early to the party. But better to be early than late, especially leading into the biggest catalyst of our lifetime, like I said, U.S. legalization and reform. But I'm excited. Let me know if you guys are excited. So we'll jump into the chat here, and we'll wrap it up. Try to keep it under 30 minutes. So we still have a couple dozen here, a couple dozen people with us after about 20 minutes. So I appreciate you joining the live stream, and appreciate all the comments. Like I said, going to try to keep it around 30 minutes just to keep these live streams a little shorter. I'll be honest, Johnny says, I don't pay attention to American MJ stocks, so maybe it is possible for them, but in general, dividends aren't a viable option for a growing company who isn't profitable yet, like Canadians. Yeah, exactly. And I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the stream, right? I said, crawl before we can walk. Let's get profitable before we start talking greedy about dividends. But I just found it ironic and sort of surprising that Boris Jordan actually said that they'd already be paying a dividend now. So that kind of puts everything into perspective, right? They'd already be paying a dividend, he said, for sure. He said, no doubt in his mind, if they didn't have 280E, right? So that means the second 280E goes away, there could be dividends within a year or two, right? And again, I'm not really here for dividends, not now anyway. I'm here for the exponential returns, right? The 100 to 1,000x gains, right? 1,000% gains. So if we can get 100x, $1,000 into $100,000, or 1,000x, $100,000 into $1 million. I mean, imagine, right? That's life-changing wealth. And then when you cash in that immediate return and those immediate profits, you can look to rebalance your portfolio. Not telling you to buy, sell, or hold. This is for entertainment purposes only, obviously not financial advice, but you could sell on a major run up, like I plan to do once the US legalizes. In my long-term account, I'm not selling it to the US legalizes at the federal level. And once we see that hype, just like Canada, I'm going to sell into that, right, in my long-term account. I got it in a short-term account as well, and I'll be taking profits, along the way at, say, Curaleaf, $10, $20, $25 kind of thing like that. But I'm not selling my long-term portfolio. It's a lower amount of capital as well until the US legalizes, right? So, yeah, like I said, I could go off on a tangent, but and then the dividends, right? Once you sell into that hype, you can look to rebalance or go back to cash and then accumulate once we drop, after legalization happens and we see a bear market again, start accumulating in the bear market and then start accumulating for the long term for dividends, right? And maybe use a lot less capital than you were the previous time, or you're not going to take 100% of your gains. If you had 100x gains, you're probably not going to put all of it back in, right? You're probably going to take most of it out and then put maybe 10-20% back in at lower levels, right? That's my plan. So, and then dividends in the future, if it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, who cares? It's just a bonus for that long-term wealth creation, right? Hello, still in Texas, Miami, Florida. Dividends, you bet. Welcome from the US. Vancouver in the house. Welcome. Not too far, just over here in Alberta. So pretty cold in Edmonton, but it was like minus 30 yesterday. I'd say maybe even minus 35 with the wind chill. And then today it dropped down. I think it's like 1 degree outside, or I think it was minus 5 or something like that last time I was out. So it wasn't too bad, but nice to see it a little milder. It was pretty bad going outside even for like a couple of minutes yesterday. But northern Alberta for you. Vancouver was just there, beautiful spot. And definitely get a lot better weather than we have here, that's for sure. Minus 40, minus 50. Not many people cut out for that. MJ going to squeeze sooner than later, and it's going to be nasty. Well, I'm certainly seeing a lot of people think, that a lot of people are saying I'm going to sell my stocks, MJ stocks. Nothing's looking like it's going to happen for a couple of years. And, the sentiment right now is at an all-time low. And like Warren Buffett says, buy when there's fear and impatience, right? And then sell when there's greed, right? So be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. And right now, there's no shortage of fear in the market. There's no shortage of frustration. If you just look at the psychological Wall Street cheat sheet, we got all the signs of a potential bottom being set, right? And the bear market starting into a new bull market, right? So again, I'd rather be early to the party than late. And here, we're not looking to time the market because, quite frankly, 99% of the time you'll never be able to do that. But as long as you can get in near the bottom and then get out near the top, right? That's all we're looking to do. Bro, tell me about Hexo. You think it will go under 12 cents? I doubt it. We got a pretty big base of support there. I don't know if you mean USD, but yeah, in terms of USD, we have a lot of support there so far at around 15 cents, and we've just been basing out for quite a few months now. So it's going to be hard to break that. We would need maybe a 5-10% drop in SPY in a day, or maybe 10 to 20% over the next few weeks. I think the broader market would really have to shed some blood, but anything's possible. Never say never in the financial markets. The only guarantees, there's no guarantees, but there's something that could happen in the space too, in the MJ, that might cause it. I can't imagine what that would be at this point, to be honest. I think there's a lot more upside potential and catalyst to the upside than to the downside. Green swans versus black swans, but we'll see how it goes. Hexo isn't going to be left out of the squeeze. Yeah, you bet. I missed that question as well, or that comment. Is Hexo going to do a reverse split? It's a good chance. They only have until January 25th to regain compliance, and they need to be above $1 for 10 consecutive business days. So then it needs to have a closing price of $1 for 10 consecutive business days. So we're running out of time. It's not looking great. If we can see this reform, then that's great. That's going to help easily, I think, get above $1 organically. But yes, we already have a reverse split approval, and they can do up to 1 for 14. Or they might even get another extension. Who knows? That's not completely unheard of, where they get 2 extensions from the NASDAQ. So we'll see. But they already do have reversal to do approval for a reverse split. So I would say the chance of delisting from the NASDAQ is like less than 1%. And remember, they did a reverse split a couple years ago, and it was originally going to be a 1 for 8 reverse split, and they revised it for a 1 to 4. So they cut it in half. Even if they did another reverse split, I don't think it'd be the end of the world. Sundial just did one, but the difference is Sundial did one in the midst of a bear market, and then last time Hexo did one, it was at the end of the bear market, entering a new bull market, and the stock actually went from $2 to $11 after it split, right? So the reverse split was actually good for it. You would think. Not necessarily good for it, but it didn't matter is what I meant to say, right? So I'm not worried about a reverse split this late into the bear market. I think we're getting close to entering a new bull market. But that's going to save us from delisting, and yeah, they already have approval to do that. But they could get an extension, so we'll just have to wait and see. We have not had a colder day than 0 here in Montreal. Yeah, I've been just amazed by how warm it's been on the East Coast this year. Maybe that means you're just due for a brutal next couple of months ahead. Knock on wood, obviously. Hopefully you don't have to deal with too much. Mitch can't stand that guy. Yep. I mean, he needs to go. For sure. He will eventually. I don't know what his age is, but I mean he's got to be getting up there. I'd say like late 70s. High tide. Yeah, so high tide. I'm going to try to keep this video. I'm not going to be doing any ticker requests at the moment, but just following the rest of the sector, right? So obviously the whole sector was brought down after this news. Also, we had weekly consolidation on the S&P 500. So high tide, like I said, I did a video on it not too long ago. I said, don't be surprised if it pulls back, 20, 30%, and here we are down 30%. I said, watch for a potential higher low around 160, and we're at 155. So it's just healthy at the moment. We're just looking for a weekly higher low. We could still drop another 15% on high tide and just be looking for a weekly higher low. So it's not looking too bad, actually. And like I said, it ran in like 2.5 weeks. It ran almost 75%. So when something runs 75% and didn't even change the weekly trend, you need to expect a 10, 20, even 30% pullback, right? MedMen popped today. Yep, it's been kind of going around. It was up to like 6 cents, then down to 4 cents. Quite a bit of percentage gains when you're only at 4 cents, right? You're a penny stock. But yeah, I own MedBen for the long term. I'm very bullish on it. I think them and Tilray and it would be a good mix. But I don't know what's going to happen with MedBen, to be honest, if Tilray acquires them. But I do think the risk to reward is going to be. I'm sold on the risk to reward is what I meant to say. Even $1,000. If we go back to all time highs, that's like $140,000, right? That's like a 140x. So I'll gladly. I'm looking to put maybe between 1,000. I think I got close to 1,000 in MedMen right now. Maybe get it up to around 2,000. But that's the most I'm ever going to invest into it. So the most I can lose is $1,000 or $2,000. But the upside's unlimited, right? If it goes back to all time highs, that's like if I put $2,000 in, that's almost $500,000, right? So yeah, those are risk to rewards odds that I'm willing to take, right? I'm prepared for a reverse split. Only benefit is a tiny share float. Yep, exactly. And it'll entice larger investors and things like that as well. You think Hexo will break all-time high at bull run come? That's a long way out for sure. But yeah, I do think that it's possible that it could see a new all-time high and price discovery. I do think that Hexo and Tilray are going to remain two public independent companies. Whether or not they merge later on, that remains to be seen. I would say it's about a 60% chance they remain independent and 40% chance they merge. But either way, I'd be okay with it. I own both stocks anyway. Hexo's my biggest holding though. I've got 14 different MJ stocks, I think, last time I counted. Mix of US producers, mix of Canadian producers, mix of retailers, mix of ETFs. Picks and shovels, right? I have all the MJ companies on Robinhood. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is it's all NASDAQ and NYSE, New York Stock Exchange listed names, right? So a lot of these names in the US, the people on Robinhood can't access them, right? So that's why we're waiting for uplisting and the floodgates for the capital to open up, right? So it's going to take some time. He is 80. There you go. So, I wouldn't say he has too many years left in Congress. So, God forbid anything happens to him, health-wise. But hopefully he's just getting tired and he needs a break. Go enjoy your retirement. Get somebody else in there. Debbie Downer. Leafly also was in the green today. Yep, you bet. 3 million shares. Tilray going to use the trademark in various stores. Huh. Not sure what you mean by that. $3 million? Or 3 million shares. Tilray going to use the trademark in various stores. Oh, for MedMen? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you think the 8% repayment signals okay upcoming earnings? Yeah, it could be. They're still forecasting negative EPS and a lower than than the previous quarter for revenue. Remember, they're still going through some of the reorganization and decommissioning of certain products that aren't selling, focusing on those higher margin products that drive sales and repeat sales, but also profitability. So it could be another quarter or two. But yeah, we could see earnings as early as next week for Hexo. So definitely a positive sign for shareholders and confidence for them, which we know we can certainly use. I really hope they do an earnings call. If they don't do it this quarter, hopefully in the first quarter of 2023. Thanks, bro. You're welcome. Yeah, Medman. Okay, yeah, I thought so. Thanks for the update, Rod. Keep the videos coming, bro. You bet. No problem. I appreciate you joining the live stream as always. Mario Francesca, shout out, please. You bet. Cool. All right, gonna end it there. Like I said, we still have a couple dozen people with us after 30 minutes now. Trying to keep these streams a little shorter. If you are just tuning in, you can go back and rewatch it. That's why I tried to keep it shorter. And share the video with anybody that might find value. Again, smash like if you think I deserved it today. I would appreciate it. And you can tick the bell, subscribe, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on the next live stream or when I post a new video. But I'll more than likely be getting another video out tomorrow. And yeah, we'll see what the future has in store. But we're running out. We only have a couple weeks left for this Congress to get things done. And then a new Congress in January. And we'll see what Biden can pull together, whether or not he can get things rescheduled. A lot remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, there's no shortage of positive catalysts in the next 6 to 12, even 24 months. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to experiencing it with it all with you, all of you, and just going through the motions in this journey, right? It definitely is a roller coaster ride. So have a great night. Thanks for joining the live stream. Appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you again on the next video.